My name is Betsy Clarke, and I'm the founder and president of the Juvenile Justice Initiative, which is a statewide advocacy organization funded in large part by the MacArthur Foundation Models for Change initiative. We actually have a circle of change, so we do research on an issue and then educate policymakers, develop consensus around reforms that need to be made, then advocate for those reforms. Then we go back and we make sure the reforms are implemented appropriately. And then we go to the circle concludes with research again to make sure that the reforms have been implemented appropriately. We've been working on jurisdictional issues. We've been trying to ensure that all youth under the age of 18 have the opportunity to be treated as juveniles in the juvenile court. So we've been working on transfer reform, making sure that youth had the opportunity to begin in the juvenile court with a court hearing before they are sent to the adult court if that's deemed necessary. And that resulted in drug transfer reform, getting kids charged with drug offenses back to the juvenile court. And we've been working on bringing 17-year-olds back to the juvenile court, as Illinois is one of only a dozen states that tries kids across the board under the age of 18 in the adult court. I think what it shows was that this had become a pattern in practice, that in a few areas in the city, it was just pattern in practice to arrest kids for drug offenses and send them to the adult court. And once that opportunity was eliminated, what happened was there was a closer review of the kids and the actual charges. And clearly they were being diverted at best, but they were not ending up in the court. They just disappeared. There was no increase in crime, no increase in youth in the detention center. Communities were kept safe. And clearly this had been a practice that had impacted on a small number of minority youth who simply did not belong in the adult court. Redeploy Illinois is a fiscal incentive program to help counties begin to develop an array of services for youth so that judges are left with alternatives to shipping youth to state prisons. Redeploy Illinois has resulted in the pilot sites in an over 50% reduction in the number of youth sent to the juvenile prisons. The target was 25%, so these pilot counties have far exceeded their targets. And in the poorest area of the state, East St. Louis, they were able in 1 year to reduce the number of youth they were shipping to the state juvenile prisons from 60 to 10. From 60 to 10 in 1 year. Really phenomenal, and giving the kids holistic services in the community, working with the kids and their families to find out what they needed, very positive youth outcomes out of these services that the youth have been receiving. In Illinois, Models for Change has enabled a core group of advocates and stakeholders to have the resources, the access to national best practices, the resources necessary to develop the consensus around reforms like transfer reform, jurisdictional reform, Redeploy Illinois. But I think also Models for Change is beginning to make it easier in other states to actually enact reform. For example, the more states that raise the age come into the tent on setting 18 as the baseline for juvenile court, the easier it is then for legislators and policymakers in the few outlying states to say, oh, well, Connecticut did that and Illinois did that, and we're one of only 5 states now left in the country that doesn't set 18, and so we ought to do it too. We can do it as well. So I think the more states that do create these reforms, the easier it is for other states to then come on and replicate what's happened.